hear me now with what's going on? Let's see. Hopefully they can. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but we will find out. So, I have tried to turn on the sound. It is going through voice meter now. I did not know that I was supposed to have it set up that way. Well, you know what? But such is life. We will continue to see what is going on, and we will still continue with the service. And if I have to, I will re-record it. Okay. Sound faint. Okay, how is this, folks? Can everybody hear me now? This should work, I would hope. Let's get back up here to where I was, showing that everything is working just all I am maxed out right. Okay, can people hear me now? Because it seems like for some weird reason we are still unable to do things. I don't know what's going on. I'm getting a bunch of chitter chatter here. This never looks good when you're doing a live service. So let's see. Can somebody tell me whether or not there is service? Sound is now okay. Okay, great. Once again, folks, I apologize. This is new to myself. I've got two different screens going at the same time, trying to get everything together in an order. But we'll continue. I'm not going to go back to the beginning of the service, but we will continue from where I had just left off, which was giving of the commandments and the laws. Now, we will continue with instructions regarding the tabernacle, and which were later applied to the temple in Jerusalem, including those concerning the Holy of Holies containing the Ark of the Covenant, in which had been placed the tablets of law, Aaron's rod, and some manna. Now, instructions for the construction of various altars that would come later. Forward-looking instructions for time when Israel would demand a king. Now, these events were a dramatic testimony to the birth of a multitude of Israelite nations, the Adamic nations, the white nations of the world. And amid these divine beings, Yahweh Elohim told this new nation to remember something profound. He told them to remember the Sabbath day and to set it apart. Exodus 28. He pointed them back to his role as the Creator, reminding them that for in 6 days Yahweh made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart. Exodus 20:11. The Sabbath commandment had an extremely important spiritual purpose, one that so many have forgotten. It points Yahweh Elohim's chosen race to him as the superior or supreme creator of all. It was a required weekly remembrance that a high power and authority is at work within the Israelite lives. Yahweh Elohim thus intended it to be observed as a reminder of that fact. The Sabbath and its significance was evident long before Yahweh Elohim gave all of the commandments and the laws to the race of Israel. As an example, a few weeks prior, after this miraculous crossing of the Red Sea, in which the Pharaoh's army was totally destroyed, and Israel entered the vast expanse of the desert wilderness of the Sinai Peninsula, it was within a few days that the Israelites' food supply that they had brought with them from Egypt became all but exhausted. And the children of Israel said to them, "If only we had died by the hand of Yahweh in the land of Misraim," or Egypt, when we sat by the pots of meat, and when we ate bread to satisfaction. For you have brought us out into this wilderness, and put all this assembly to death with hunger. Exodus 16:3. Now, however, being the all-knowing Yahweh Elohim was already one step ahead. He had promised to send manna, a miraculous substance to nourish and sustain them for as long as they were in the wilderness. Okay, Exodus 16:4, 15 through 18. A condition, however, was imposed upon them. He would provide the manna only 6 days out of every 7 days. On the 6th day there would be twice as much manna, but there would be none on the 7th day. Exodus 16:5 and 22. Moshe then explained to them what Yahweh Elohim had told him, and he said to them, "This is what Yahweh has said. Tomorrow is a rest and a Sabbath set apart to Yahweh. That which you
bake, bake, and that which you cook, cook, and lay up for yourselves all that is left over to keep it until morning, gathering it 6 days, but on the seventh, which is the Sabbath, there is none. Exodus 16:23 and 26. But as usual, some didn't heed this advice, and it came to be that some of the people went out on the seventh day to gather. Why? Why would Israel do that when they had just been shown so much love from Yahweh Elohim? Why? My personal thought is this, is that there were some Jews that were hidden in there and have decided to make themselves their own thing. What I am quoting you right now is directly from the scriptures. Okay? And it came to be that some of the people went out on the seventh day to gather, but they found none. Exodus 16:27. Yahweh Elohim's reaction to this was this. And Yahweh said to Moshe, how long shall you refuse to guard my commands and my Torah? See, because Yahweh has given you the Sabbath, therefore he is giving you bread for 2 days on the 6th day. Let each one stay in his place. Do not let anyone go out of his place on the 7th day. Exodus 16:28 through 29. All of which you can read for yourself. Several weeks prior, he spoke the commandments and the laws at Mount Sinai. Yahweh Elohim stated that the Israelites were refusing to keep his commandments and laws. He also stated, because Yahweh has given you the Sabbath. Exodus 16:29. He did not say, is giving or will give. He had already given unto them a Sabbath to be observed every 7 days. When Yahweh Elohim commanded Israel, remember the Sabbath and set it apart, Exodus 28, and told the Israelites they were refusing to keep his commandments and laws by violating the Sabbath before they even arrived at Mount Sinai, Exodus 16:28. He pointed them back to the original creation week. It is held within the book of Genesis, the beginning, that we read of Yahweh Elohim creating the earth. A circle, by the way, not a flat surface. A circle. Then filling it with plants and animals and beasts, other races, including whites, without the breath of lives. I want to make sure that is abundantly clear. It is of my firm opinion and the opinion of a bunch of other 2 sea line pastors that there was a creation of the animals and the beasts, other races, including whites. But those whites had not received the breath of life. Okay? They had not been given the spiritual life that had not been granted to them until Adam and Eve. Okay? So there was pre-Ha'adam, and then there was post-Ha'adam. Okay? The post is the ones that we are referencing that has become the house of Israel, that became the Caucasian races of the world. They are the Israelites, the true children of Yahweh Elohim, the chosen race. They are the Caucasians, the Aryan or noble people who had received the breath of lives. The creatures and the animals and the other races prior to Adam did not receive a breath of lives. Lives. 2, the physical life, and then the spiritual or the inner life. The one that we as Christian Israelites have within us if you have been awoken by Yahweh, your true Father. Okay? Now, these other creatures, of course, were the beasts of the fields, and the creating a beautiful home for the first Adam, or the Adam. and Cha'awa. And I know Pastor Steve's going to eat me up for saying it that way, but that's the way I say it. And that is Eve, and it's Chawwah. Folks, I do want to say this, that I am noticing that some people are posting in the chat on YouTube. There is a delay from my end to YouTube because of the connection service. So there's going to be a small delay, so if you're not hearing anything, just give it a little bit. I've double checked my mic, it is on. I've double checked the settings, and it is on as well. So we'll just, hopefully you guys will be able to hear it. If you are listening to this now on YouTube, please like and subscribe to the channel, and hopefully I will be able to produce a few more of these videos. Okay, now, the Adam and Eve were the first Caucasians to be granted the breath of life, which is what I had just explained. It is here that we read the true origin of the Sabbath. And in the seventh day Elohim completed his work which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all of his work which he had made. And Elohim blessed the seventh day and set it apart, because on it he rested from all of his work which Elohim in creating had made. Genesis 2:2-3. This day was different from the other days of the creation week. Yahweh Elohim blessed the seventh day and sanctified it for us. Okay? We can see within these two verses that Yahweh Elohim 3 different times did not work on the seventh day. He emphasizes here is that the emphasis here is that this was his day of rest. It was Yahweh Elohim's Sabbath rest. There are some people that dispute this interpretation, saying that this was not the origin of the commanded day of rest, simply noting that the word Sabbath is not used or even mentioned here. To them I say, take your Jewish fork-tongued serpent crap and stick it where the sun don't shine, because you are not reading the scriptures. I have just given you verse where it states it was his rest. Just because your Sabbath day is not there does not mean he did not command you to rest on that day, and that is why you venomous vipers, are of your father Satan, because you don't read what was written. You do not believe in what Yahweh, our Father, the white race, gave. So take your fork-tongued crap and everything that you have touched and destroyed that was holy and go somewhere else. However, if they would only do research, and I'm going to give you some. The Hebrew word translated as rested is a form of Shabbath, the root word for Sabbath. Shabbath literally means to cease or rest, and it is from this that Sabbath gets its meaning as a day of rest. So to help those that don't understand or do not want to research it for themselves, I will paraphrase it here for you. Yahweh Elohim Sabbathed on the seventh day from all of his work. Are you happy? Good. There should be no mistake at all. The Hebrew language is clear and explicit in its intent and its meaning. Remember, this is Hebrew, not Ashkenazi Yiddish, which is spoken today in the false state of Israel by the serpent seed line. The remarkable thing is that some will continue to argue that this doesn't prove the Sabbath existed from the creation week, maintaining that it wasn't instituted until given to Israel at Mount Sinai. However, we find by studying the Holy Scriptures that Yahshua the Messiah dispelled this theory. And he said to them, the Sabbath was made for the Adam, and not the Adam for the Sabbath. Mark 2:27. He clarified the great underlying principle of the Sabbath day that so many have missed over the centuries and still miss to this day. The Sabbath, far from enforcing a tiresome bondage or sanctioning a list of forbidden activities, is something Yahweh Elohim made for Ha'adam, the white, Caucasian, chosen race of Yahweh Elohim. How hard is that to understand? It was made holy. It was set apart after Yahweh Elohim created Ha'adam and Cha'awah. This event occurred, I believe, at a day or time or even an age after the creation of man in Genesis 1:26, and was created after the first 7 days had expired. For more on this subject matter, I would have you make sure you order a copy of Your Story, Your Racial History from Divine Truth Ministries. After the creation of Ha'adam and Chawah, he then made a set-apart day, holy day, sanctifying it to make it a Sabbath day. To Yahshua the Messiah, the Sabbath was both positive and beneficial, and not the oppressive burden that many religious leaders have made of it in his day. Now, notice his words once again, that the Sabbath was made for Ha'adam, the nation of Israel, and not for all of mankind. So observing it wasn't a meaningless practice forced upon Ha'adam to bring about a hardship and or difficulty. The seventh day was made for Ha'adam, created expressly for Ha'adam kind's benefit and well-being. Yahshua Messiah understood the purpose of Yahweh Elohim's law, and this included the Sabbath, that Yahweh Elohim intended it to be a blessing and a benefit to Ha-Adam kind. Yahweh Elohim, speaking through Moshe, had earlier told Israel, "In that I am commanding you today to love Yahweh your Elohim, to walk in his ways, and to guard his commands and his laws and his right rulings." Why? "And you shall live and increase, and Yahweh your Elohim shall bless you in the land you go to possess." Deuteronomy 30:16. Now, Moshe, after leading Israel for 40 years through the vast wilderness, summed up the Israelites' experiences just before they were to enter into the promised land. He understood how wonderful the law was that they had been given from Yahweh Elohim, and how it was truly unique. "See, I have taught you the laws and right rulings as Yahweh my Elohim commanded me, to do this in this land which you go to possess, and you shall guard and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding before the eyes of the peoples who hear all these laws. And they shall say, only a wise and understanding people," Caucasians, "is the great nation. For what great nation is there which has Elohim so near to it as Yahweh our Elohim is to us, whenever we call on him? And what great nation is there that has such laws and right rulings like all this Torah which I have set before you this day?" Deuteronomy 4:5-8. Yahweh Elohim clearly intended the Sabbath to be a blessing to those of the house of Israel, who would use it for the purpose that Yahweh Elohim had intended. The instruction that Yahweh Elohim gave regarding the Sabbath day was brief, but shed valuable insight into this intent. "Remember the Sabbath day, to set it apart, 6 days you labor, and shall do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of Yahweh your Elohim. You do not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days Yahweh made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath and set it apart. On the Sabbath, we can see that all members of a household were to rest from all of their labors. Yes, even their servants, guests, and animals, all within a house or dominion of Israel, to rest upon the seventh day from their normal and very routine works. All family members and all household members were specifically listed, including the parents, sons, daughters, servants, and guests. If none would work on the Sabbath, everyone would spend more time or much of the day with other family members as a family or household. Something, my friends, that is desperately needed in today's age, when family is no longer your priority among the house of Israel. Thank you folks very much for joining me today, and I pray that this was something that you can use later. Next service, I will post it, and we will continue this series. Thank you very much for joining me, and may Yahweh, our Elohim, bless you.